Well, all right. Well, welcome back to Saturday Night Chit Chat. And man, I'll tell you what, we've had all kinds of amazing guests on since the beginning of the year, since the beginning of the show. And this is really cool. Tonight, they have been on a little bit of hiatus, but they're back in busyness, as we say. I want to talk to them about their journey, lots of stuff, and talk to it's just gonna be a great one. Yeah, here tonight. So everybody, please welcome Mr. Sky White and Alex Nauth from those amazing gentlemen called Foxy Shazam. How y'all doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm doing good, man. It's so good to see both of you. I'm still just gazing in on Sky's foliage behind him. It's just I'm jealous. It's like I try to do it and I just can't. Don't have a green thumb.
No, me neither.
You got action figures growing behind you.
I do. I have I grow Funko Pops in the backyard. Yeah, but you know.
My favorite type of plant.
That's the best thing. Yeah.
The best I got for you is my creative peeing dog.
I see that. Now I can't see. What is he actually relieving himself on? I can't tell. Is it a fire hydrant or what?
It's hard to say. You know, it's a real artistic interpretation of like the side of a building. You know.
Oh, got it.
Colors. Like he's really just peeing the color right now. You know.
Nice.
It's a nice space when you want to just really go release. You know, creatively or whatever. I come to this little nook.
I love
the
it.
Dog do his magic.
That's great.
Let it out.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you who don't know, you probably heard me mention, if you follow at all or you know my journey at all, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and we have folks from all over the country and all over the world on the show, but we have we're very lucky because these gentlemen are also from Cincinnati, Ohio, which is cool. And before we get into all that, a little bit of history, I always start off the show with the same question, and either one of you can chime in, but you know, it's obviously been a crazy year. So what have the both of you been doing to kind of keep yourselves occupied in your mind, creative, and you know, this last 14 months or so? Alex, why don't we start with you? Because I know a little bit about Sky, but what about you? Yeah.
No, for sure. Well, really, I mean, it kind of, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. It kind of gives you your ultimate drive to be the most creative self that you can be when there's nothing else. Right. Everything else is stripped away. You know, it's you either do or you don't. You know, so and I think that's the best force is that it's just driven us. I think all of us, but just to create harder and on the highest level that we possibly can. You know, it's the world needs that from everybody, from all of us. You know, and I think we all can feel that call. I think it's been nice in that way. And, you know, as hard as everything has been, which I'm sure it's been for you guys too. I have 2 small kids, and it's been a ride and a journey. But
and one of them's kind of fresh, isn't it? One of your kids?
Yeah. He's like just about a year and a half now, just about a year and a half. But yeah, wow. it was a heck of a year, and to find time to do it and everything. But at the same time, there's only time. That's really it. And I think that's what this time gives us moving forward, going back into it, is that it really is, there is only time. It's up to us. It's our choice. And so if anything, I think it helps just to refocus the drive and commitment, you know, I think, which has been nice. But I don't know. What about you, Sky?
Yeah, Sky, yeah.
Yeah, my big thing is just trying to take care of myself and like the people I care about and my own sanity enough to remain being able to be a creative person. Because like I'm the kind of person where if I'm not feeling good, not feeling excited, not feeling like healthy and happy, I have a hard time putting myself into music. And like that's the reason I make music, is to put myself into music. So like spending a bunch of time with dogs and girlfriend and like running and trying to take care of myself, eat healthy enough to not feel like garbage, but eat bad enough to not feel awful, because I'm like, you know, mental health is important too. So it's the balance of all that. And then, you know, like Foxy, we've gotten together a decent amount, just trying to figure out how to navigate all of this. Me and Freak have gotten together a decent amount and sent music back and forth to each other a handful of times.
Yeah.
So like, you know, trying to manage a relatively unmanageable situation, just because, you know, we've never been here before. So, but we made it. We're here now. Shows are back on the books.
Yeah, it's great. It's weird to even say that. It's weird because when I first started this show, like, and we'll still touch on this a little bit within the show because we're obviously not back to totally normal yet, but it's like, it was always the big elephant in the room question, like, when are live shows going to happen again? You know, like for the first 3 or 4 months, probably actually more like the first 5 or 6 months of the show, it was like, it looked, pretty bleak there for a little while,
bleak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice that that's kind of coming around. Well, a lot of people probably might know this that know you all, Foxy Shazam, but and I've heard little stories here and there from Sky, but like in a semi Cliff Notes version, either one of you, like, how did you all kind of initially connect the band?
Well, you want me to take the first few years and then you take on after that?
Yeah, that seems.
So yeah, like what was it, like 2004 or so. The rest of the Foxy dudes at that time, it was like mainly Eric and Norm. They were just in another band around town, and like I've seen them, and they were like super entertaining. They were not like the most talented people in
Real quick, not to
but like the song.
Were you both or one of you already gigging in other bands too at the time, like you're talking about?
All
right
of
now?
us.
Okay,
yeah, all of us.
You guys were already
in
gigging.
different
Okay,
bands.
cool,
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's the way Foxy always worked. It was just like the band would see like an awesome player in one band, and then just be like, okay, if the scenario ever comes up, how would this make any sense? And like,
right.
So Lauren and Eric were in a band called Train of Thought at the time, and they were writing new music, and it was all like, it was just breakdown after breakdown after weird part. There was no melody anywhere. And and the way it worked out was my brother was playing with Moth. Do you remember the band Moth?
I do remember Moth, yeah.
Yeah, so Brad was recording the songs that these guys were writing, like right down the street from my house. It was like the demos of the first 3 songs, and it was just rhythm section stuff.
Yeah.
And they through Brad, through my brother, just invited me to walk down there. I just walked down to the studio from, at that point, I was like 17. I was at my parents' house. I just walked down there and rolled in. I was like, you guys don't have any melody. Like, I could just put melody down. Like, I could just play piano on this.
Yeah.
And then, like, the next day, we just kept writing, and that was it. And then that was, like 2004? Pretty much. You remember Mad Hatter in Cincinnati?
Yes, yeah. I think I might have played there once or twice, maybe. Yeah.
So there's a club called Tickets, which was like a small, maybe 200 cap club above a sports bar. There was a promoter
I
named
vaguely
Frank.
remember that. Yeah, that was in Covington, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah. So we hopped on like a handful of big tours come through there. And then Frank got the Mad Hatter, and we opened up for people over and over and over and over. Everyone from like Portugal the Man, Fall of Troy, just like tons of bands going through there. Like, and because every time we'd draw more and more and more people, because we would have opened up for more people. And then, so maybe after a couple years of that, Foxy just went on the road. We just like lived in a van for a handful of years. And then, it was like 300 shows a year. Like, I was never home. And
but are we still in 2004 at this point? Or are we closer to like?
No, we're probably at, when did you hop on, Alex? It was 2008?
2008. Yeah. It was somewhere in there.
Yeah. So like before.
So Foxy
Alex,
was touring. Foxy was touring before you were in the band a little bit, Alex. Like they were.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, and so it's like, 'cause I was
we were doing like.
Yeah, you guys were playing all the time.
Yeah, who were you playing with?
I mean, I was in a progressive ska rock band. It was called Sofa Punch for a while, and we did stuff around that had like horns and weird stuff, but we'd always play with metal bands because we didn't quite fit with ska, and we didn't quite fit with rock, so we just always play with like weird progressive metal bands. And so we came across Foxy a couple of times, and then I was in a band called Look Afraid, which is like a Western rock and roll band with horn, of course. And that is when I ended up, I did some studio gigs with, I think, old members of Foxy. I think 1 or 2 old members of Foxy, maybe even Teddy, back in the day, because Teddy was in the band for a little bit too. And we ended up playing a show, and it was at the Mad Hatter. And that's when I ended up meeting you guys, and it was kind of the same deal. I think I was looking for something more and you guys were looking for maybe something that I had. So it kind of worked out.
You want to take over from that point? Because you know we had an independent record, an indie label record, and then Alex hopped on right before we were doing stuff with Warner Brothers. Do you want to
we basically started
hop in on that process?
Yeah, like when I hopped in, I moved into Eric's basement and lived with like his kids and Karen, and we just wrote. And Sky would come over almost every day and stuff, and that's when we were writing the self-titled. We wrote most of the self-titled there in Eric's old house, and then it was just a whirlwind. And then that was Warner Brothers and getting on that, and that was about the same time that like we made our big deal and stuff and did that, and then basically labels started to completely crumble and fall apart on the back end and stuff. So we kind of rode through that, I guess, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But we were able to get in and out of some things that were good. So we kind of like skated through that whole like downfall, and I'm sure many people know too, we're a difficult band, so we bounce from label to label, you know, from record to record, because we'll change. That's not an easy thing to bank on, you know, for most labels and stuff. But you know, yeah, it's been we went through what, 2 major labels, a couple indies, and then did the last one on our own. What was that, 2014? And I think it was just, we got to a point where we, like Sky was saying, we were touring so much. I think in 2012, I came home 2 days before I got married, and then left 3 days after, I think, or something like that. And I think that year we were home maybe, I don't know, 2 months, but not at the same time. So 2 months out of the whole year, but like not ever together. And I think yeah, so it was constant all the time. I think I bought my house in a Mexican restaurant without ever seeing it.
Right.
Just all the things that you do. So yeah, I think I like remember like walking back in, like I think I just bought a house without seeing it. I just really didn't have a choice there. But you do what you have to do. So I think I don't know. I don't think any of us realized it. I think we got to a point in 2014 where it just needed to take a break, I think, for a second. Maybe it was getting to everybody, but
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, and you know, feel free to whatever you guys feel like is good to talk about. But like, what, you know, again, I guess the elephant in the room with you guys, why did you take such a long break? I know Eric was probably work with Macklemore, and that was probably part of it. But was it just that, or were there other things too?
No, because to be honest, that really wasn't on the table, right? So it's like the Macklemore thing happened after.
Okay, got it.
Months even after we had broken up, I think, then that like came down the pipeline and stuff like that. But yeah, I seriously think, and maybe Sky can attest to this better, but I don't even know if any of us realized it on the front end. Maybe it was more of a subconscious thing, but it just kind of happened. And it's like, I don't think any of us really wanted it, but maybe, I don't know, at least like Sky and Eric and I think maybe we knew that to stay together in the long run, that maybe that was the best choice for the moment, as hard as a decision that would be, you know.
Right.
But
there were a lot of just complicated things. Like we had been doing 200 to 300 shows a year at that time for over a decade, right? Yeah. So I think we did like 2,400 shows in that amount of time, which is, no band does that. That's not a thing bands do. We just literally did it because like we had labels fall apart over and over and over. We had no other real form of income except just crushing it on the road.
Right.
And so like, you know, you're a whole lot like us, where it's like you like your work being your work.
Right.
And like shows were our work. Like we go and play shows and make money from a show and like and like there's a hot minute in there where we'd have like publishing money and stuff like that, but really it came down to, in order to have a good enough career for all of us to like be supporting our families and like our business be growing and gaining new fans, was we had to live on the road. And at no point was it easy. And after 10 years, we kind of got to where we're playing in front of like over 1,000 people in pretty much every city in the US and major markets, 2,000, something close to that. And then like we had in the entire record cycle Gonzo, and we're playing the same size shows again. And like we're making good money, but we're just living on the road.
Yeah.
And so like we hit that spot where we were doing everything on our own and we weren't growing, but we were making the kind of music we were wanting to make, and we were playing shows, but like there wasn't that excitement of going somewhere.
Yeah.
And at this point, we didn't have time to do anything else. We didn't have time to play with other people or like even practice. Like we literally were doing like acoustic performance in the morning, show at night, like meet and greet afterwards, get 4 hours of sleep, go either to an airplane or a tour bus or van, and like it was just direct to fan every single thing we ever accomplished. So but towards the end of that, it was just rough. Like I remember being gone and not seeing home for 6 months at one time. Like
I think we didn't realize
by then
we give a lot of ourselves on stage, and I know you guys do too. You know, you freaking like so when you give so much, and I think we also tried to give ourselves openly off stage too. I think for people, I think that's what makes the difference, you know, and stuff. And at least for us too, it's like that's really where that connection is strong with, you know, our fans, our friends. You know, it's like the people who really care about what we do. And I think I don't think it's something I realized until after the fact, until after a break. It was like you just give so much of yourself, and you realize if you don't balance that, you just don't realize it. You know, it's like a sponge getting completely wrung dry, and it's like you just didn't even realize it till it starts to fill back up, and you're like, oh right, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't filling up the other end there, you know, as much. But
I think the one thing, and Alex, you kind of mentioned a little earlier, but it's like from the Cincinnati thing, you know, the similarities between the both of us. You know, my whole thing too has always been, you can't really pigeonhole you guys. Like I was like always like, I wasn't quite R&B and alternative. I wasn't quite rock. I wasn't quite, you know, jam band. You know, it was like I was always in this weird like gray area, like
they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah. It's like that kind of thing too. So you almost kind of create your own kind of fan base in a way, you know, which is and I think part of that is from growing up in, you know, from Cincinnati. You know, it's like if you're in like New York or LA, like a big music, you know, mecca, you know, there's like that little, everybody kind of breathes off
jazz
of each
players
other.
Can just play with jazz players.
Right. And there's a scene, and it's a click
Cincinnati.
thing. It's a click thing, all that kind of stuff. And it's just, Cincinnati, we're kind of like I always say, like we're the kid in the back of the class, like raising our hand a little higher to try to be noticed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I mean, I think DIY is in our blood here.
Yeah, exactly.
It was always an Ohio thing. I grew up in Cleveland, but I feel it in all of Ohio. I've lived in Cincinnati
for sure, totally.
Longer, you know, now than you know, or almost the same amount of time, and I feel it just as much down here. It's like DIY is in our blood. So, like you said, Freak, it's like we don't live in those. We never did. We never lived in those big cities where you have this opportunity. So what do? You make it. You know, it's like if you can't go out and buy it, or I can't afford it, or whatever it is. It's like you make it. You just do it yourself. And I think that's what I love, and that's why we've never left here too. It's like that mentality. You know, people want to go out and go somewhere else and stuff, but you realize that's once you're there and there for a certain amount of time, that's what everyone's missing. That's what's been sucked out, and that's what everyone wants to get back to. So it is that grass is always greener, but it's just the choice of what you want. You know?
For sure. So where do you guys, you know, let's say 5 years from now, I mean, in an ideal situation, where do you kind of, you know, mentally see you guys 5 years from now, Foxy Shazam? Where would you like to be 5 years from now? 5 to 7 years, whatever.
Headlining a festival that we've made with you, Freak, for the city. And I think that's what we're doing. And we'll do it like downtown, right next to like the ballpark or something like that. That's what we'll be doing, at least.
I'm down with that. You know, signed, sealed, delivered. Yeah. What do you think, Sky?
I keep saying this to Eric and Alex. I don't know if I've talked to you about this. I think optimally, I'd like to do just big, cool, important shows that feel special. Like one of the things that was rough about the last many years of Foxy in like, you know, 2010 to 2014 or whatever, it was like we did so many shows that like our fans loved it and appreciated it, but it was like it wasn't special for them like the amount that we put into it.
Yeah, we weren't able to make it more, but it's like the time that stuff too.
Yeah. So I think I'd like to do like 20 some shows a year, and every one of them is big and beautiful and special, and fans are super grateful of every moment that they get to experience. We're able to like build really big, nice, interesting sets, do cool production that's unique.
Yeah, I love that. Almost like you're releasing like a movie each time. Like there's a movie premiere. You know what I mean? That kind of concept. Yeah.
Definitely.
That makes sense. That's awesome. Well, now, what do you guys think, like, even outside of, what you all do, just in general, and then between your personal experiences and everybody you've talked to, where do you guys think just touring just in general will be, let's say, 2021, 2022. I know you guys like 2022 is when you're going to kick some stuff off for yourselves, but like, do you think we're ever going to be back to those days where, like if there was a band, not you all, but like, that wanted to go out and do 200 dates a year, just get in a van and just go for it. Do you think that's even a possibility, with the world that we're in right now?
I would say right now, no, it's going to be hard. And it's like, because after the past year, I'm sure there's enough venues that have shut down across the country, and stuff like that, no, it wouldn't be like when we were, kicking it off young and stuff, where it's like there's a lot of dives and stuff. I'm sure a lot of places have closed, but I do believe that this is not going to go away. It's just opening the door for a whole bunch of new things to open, new things to be saved and stuff. So if anything, I think the draw is going to be there. It might be harder for those bands, I think, to book as many shows maybe this next year, because I think there's also going to be a backlog of all the bands who have already been touring and stuff, and then last year got backlog and then pushed.
Well, there already is. I'll tell you from experience, like almost every festival, it's like they're basically just rebooking from last year.
Yeah, and so that's like 2 years almost backlog now, right? So it's like, so even other artists have to deal with that as well, let alone say artists who are just starting off. So, but I think it will catch up. So it's like, I think it's going to be a slight slow roll, maybe better for people who are a little bit more established before this happens, and stuff. But I think the scene's going to need it. Venues are going to need it and stuff. Yeah. So I would say, like you were saying, within 5 years, there'll be another boom. There will, right? We'll get more of these punk bands and stuff, and the more dive bars, and everybody. Hopefully more than just it's like that, with the punk mentality of it. It's like with every genre. But I think it'll come. I really do.
Yeah. You have any thoughts on that, Sky?
I think you guys covered it good.
Yeah.
Exactly. We talk about a lot too.
Yeah. It's such a weird time. One I had on, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I had Dave Katz from Acoustic Hookah on the show, and they've had Hookahville for whatever 25, 30 years or whatever, because they do two a year, which is crazy. And he was saying their last Hookahville, which was like last month or whatever, they did of course the pod thing with a lot of them. And he was like, we should have never, before even pandemic or post-pandemic, they're going to continue to keep doing the pod thing, because so many people geeked out about having that whole little area. So it'll just be an up ticket price. You know what I mean? It'll be like, hey, you get your own area at this festival, almost like buying a box seat if you were going to like a football game or something, And so there are some interesting new things that are coming out of it, this whole thing,
I love that. And I think it plays into what Sky was saying too, where it's like by creating new experiences, by doing maybe even less, but by creating more with that experience, less but more, and it's like, I agree. When I first saw that pod, I think it was like big festivals were doing it. It's like, why wouldn't you want that? These closed off groups, and it's like that, like you said, an up ticket price. It just adds more experience, more reason to go back out to a show, because now there's these whole new things. I think there's going to be new technology with like photo booths and things like that. The show, it's going to be a new age once it catches its footing again. But I think it's coming. Hopefully we'll be involved in all that. I think it will be a new boom, for sure.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
One thing I wanted to bring up was, I think a thing we've learned from this is that there's definitely a market for those, like, I like my own space at shows, because how many shows have we played where there's not a single place in the room to not be somebody breathing in directly into your face. So,
and even at 25, I didn't like that. Like watching it, it's like I wanted more personal space even at 20. So it's like I understand that.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll probably see a decent amount of venues that are focusing more on not smashing people in, and then the clubs that can eventually get to that point of smelly, dirty rock clubs, which I love. But I don't like being it, but I like playing there. But I love the fans that are willing to be like, ah.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
sure.
And then it will give like these venues more dichotomy from each other too. And I think like we're talking about touring in general, and so it's like now we have more distinction between, you know, like in the old days, our CBGBs and our, you know, our more ballroom kind of shows, you know, and stuff. So maybe we'll get a little bit more. It's cool to go to this venue for this, you know, and cool to go to this venue for this experience reason-wise. But yeah, I can see that happening for sure.
Totally. So, well, let's kind of start wrapping stuff up now, and briefly talk about what do you guys, Foxy, obviously you have your debut show coming up in February. Is that right? It's February, right? Here in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And is there anything else, you know, I think you have a new album out, relatively new album out, right, too, as well? Yeah. Anything else?
December, we put out Burn.
Yeah.
So yeah, Burn, was recorded, it was right before pandemic, like directly before it. And so we're working on it. We were working on it.
Got it done recording right before 2020, I think. So at the very end of 2019.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
It was.
Yeah, we always have this thing where we write songs and like we're just like a touch too early, like something happens in the universe that makes that song make sense like 6 months or a year later down the road. Yeah. And this one just happened to line up. Like
that worked out.
Yeah, it just the vibe of the record was very 2020. Like lyrical content was very 2020. A lot of it felt like the exact record for the time, which, you know, we've had like the Church of Rock and Roll record we put out, and like there wasn't any rock and roll coming out at that, and then like 4 or 5 years later everything's a rock band coming out now. So,
right.
Yeah. So
oh well.
But yeah, like, so that was an interesting experience, putting out a record and not being able to tour on it.
Right.
And like, yeah, figuring out financially how to pull all that off, and like
after waiting 6 years and stuff. Yeah, it was interesting. But I think it was fun. Oh no, I was just gonna say I think it was not fun, but I guess the challenge of it, right? It's like it's for all of us, you as well, Freak. It's like how do you pivot? What do you do? You know, it's like you either do or you don't, and that's just kind of it. So you figure out a way to hopefully make it entertaining.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, Alex, we've been kind of doing, as musicians, and specifically musicians from Ohio, we've been kind of doing this our whole life. So you have to like adjust, you know, it's like we're constantly adjusting.
Yeah, I think we're more well suited for it. Yeah, it's not taken completely to our knees. Yeah, we can pivot, and we can refocus, you know, and keep moving forward. Yeah, you know, which I love.
Yeah, Freak's the king of the pivot here.
Oh God, you are
pivot king.
Yeah, you immediately like, I'm just gonna start like a media empire.
Yeah, we also learn a lot.
Well, it's weird because it's funny, and I've mentioned this to a couple people, but it's like when I started doing this show, like I did it just, you know, initially just to kind of reach out to fans. You know, it was like a Saturday night. I'm like, I'm not playing a gig, so I'll just go on, and then I did it 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then I didn't do it a week, and then I started getting some people like messaging me like, "Well, were you last night?" And I was like, "I didn't know I was supposed to be somewhere last night." So then it just kind of ended up by default becoming a thing. Now the challenging part now for me is as shows start happening, I'm having to kind of figure out how, you know, because it's Saturday night chit-chat, which is you know, crazy night to do this. So I'm sure I'll figure out something. You know,
have to be the
live remote.
Yeah, the after show.
Oh, there you go. After show, like, yes. Come in with like a little like smoking jacket and like pipe in or something like that.
You can make your own theme and music so you can walk in like
Hugh Hefner style. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Well, you can write the music then, Alex.
I would love to. I'll make a banner so you can hang in any green room, right? So the whole office changes.
Oh, right.
With you, and you can just do it. I'd be honored.
That's perfect. Well, guys, man, I can't thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, it's like, obviously I know you both, I know this crazy guy right here too, as well, with the beard. And you know, I'm such a big fan of what you all do. Just because, you know, it's just so exciting that it comes from the area that I'm from too, because, you know, our music's a little bit different, but we're still basically speaking the same language in a different way. You know what I mean? And, It's
And
really
ditto, I'm
exciting.
a huge fan as well, Freak.
Oh,
So
great. Well, awesome. Well, it's the feeling is definitely likewise. So, we'll all be watching you this coming year. Make sure if you haven't yet, our tickets still available for the February show coming up,
Yep.
right?
At the Icon Music Center.
Icon Music Center, right. And that's just
Right.
that's a fresh, for those of you outside of that watching outside of the Cincinnati, Ohio area, that's a brand new, I don't know, have they opened yet? Are they open, or is it, do you know?
They
No.
will be, I think, soon. I think for the summer, right? I think Foo Fighters are coming for the outdoor.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they will
Yeah.
be soon, but it's going to be a great venue. We're
Oh,
talking
it's
about
going to be like a
venue-
Lifestyles Pavilion thing in Columbus where it's like indoor or outdoor, like depending on what the show was.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Oh, super cool.
It's a big place, and even that place too. We're talking about having different areas. There's like a standing area up top.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
that isn't seated, so like we're having like these different sections of people can kind of experience the concert in their own way. Like say you want to be standing, but not in the huge crowd down below.
Right.
There's areas that are ticketed up top, so it's interesting. It's going to be a nice venue for the city.
Yeah, and it's right on the river, right down by,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, right. Okay,
Very
great.
beautiful.
Awesome. So grab your tickets for that. I will be there, definitely freaking out, cheering on, throwing Funko Pops at them from the audience. And that's right. And that's it. So thank you so much for being on the show. I will see you guys both hopefully in person next time I talk to you. And keep growing those beautiful plants, Sky. And I will see you all soon. All right. Take care. Love you all both.
Bye, Freak.
See ya.